Yes, I can hear you. Okay.
And greetings to all of our listeners and followers and watchers and whatever it is you're doing right now. Greetings to you all, to our queens, and of course to our kings, because I know we have some kings watching as well. My name is Therese Millett Joseph, and I am the founder and the creator of the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis podcast. We do this every other Sunday, but sometimes if we get into the mood, we do it every Sunday. Just stay tuned. Today, I am going to be accompanied on the podcast by some beautiful sister queens, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves in a moment. But before I do that, let me tell anyone who is here on the platform for the very first time that I created this platform about 5.5 years ago because I am very passionate about empowering women, particularly women of color. And so I created a platform whose primary objective is to encourage you and to motivate you and to elevate and to empower you. If this is the kind of content that you're into, then you want to like and follow and subscribe so that you can get lots more of this. All right, let's get into today's conversation. We're going to be talking about aging today and why women seem to be afraid of aging. And I have invited some powerful women to help me unpack this topic. We're going to start with Auntie Heather. Would you like to greet the people and introduce yourself? Tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hello, Therese. It's such a pleasure to be on your program. I watch you all the time. I try not to miss any of your podcasts. I always find them so interesting, so informative and really applicable to us as women. So as you said before, my name is Heather Durham. I'm a visual artist, an actress, a talk show host, an educator, a feminist, and a woman who is living life to the fullest, who is not afraid of aging. And I just believe in living life and embracing everything about it.
All right. Okay. Fantastic. And she didn't tell y'all half of what she did, right? Or does. That's just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to leave it at that because I don't want y'all fangirling too much on here today. All right. So we're going to throw it over to Celine now. Celine, would you like to introduce yourself to the folks?
Hello. My name is Celine Senhouse. As you can see, I'm the youngest on our panel, but I do believe that I have, many things to contribute, as we'll see later on in the episode. I'm born and raised here in Antigua. I am a self-taught head tie enthusiast. I am also very much into Caribbean fashion, Caribbean culture, dance, fitness, carnival, a myriad of interests. Very happy to be here today.
All right. I love the earrings.
Thank you.
I am just, I'm drooling over the earrings here today. We're going to,
Thank you. They were gifted by somebody on this panel, as a matter of fact.
the next time I'm in Antigua, we're going to have an earring gathering because.
Yes, a hookup.
Yes, we will. We will.
Yes. All right. And last but certainly not least, my sister Queen Zara, who is no stranger to the platform. She's been here on the platform before, but still, reintroduce yourself.
Hello. It is awesome to be here tonight. And yeah, we're going to just keep it real with you when we talk about the whole aging process. And it's awesome to be here with Heather, Celine, and of course, you, Therese.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. These are busy women, people. Okay. These are women who are out here moving and shaking, like they are literally shaking the table in Antigua. I know we have a lot of listeners who are in various parts of the world, but incidentally, everyone on the panel here today is born and raised in Antigua, which is a beautiful island in the Eastern Caribbean. And some of us may be living in other parts of the world, but we're island girls at heart. Okay. All right. So we're talking about aging today. Greetings, Monique. I see you in the chat section. You're ready. You're ready. Monique is already in the chat section. We haven't started the topic yet. All right. So we're talking about aging today. What we refer to in clinical settings as gerontophobia, right? We don't want to use too much clinical terminology today. We're going to keep it lay person friendly, but I do like to give people some clinical terminology so that when they hear it in other places, they'll be like, hey, I heard Therese talking about that. I know what that means. You know what I mean? And so the official term, the clinical term that we use to describe the fear of aging is gerontophobia. And gerontophobia, loosely defined, just means that you are either one, afraid of aging yourself, or two, you are afraid of being around people who are aging. Interesting. So it takes in both. So you are not just afraid of the process, you are afraid of being around people or watching people or coming in contact with people who are old and aging and that type of thing. So these are people who don't want to go visit people in like an old age home or something like that, right? They would avoid that. And also do not want to see any signs of aging on themselves. Now, today, for the purpose of this discussion, we're going to be focusing on number one, which is the fear of aging yourself and not necessarily watching aging happening to another person. So we're going to focus this discussion on how I personally and how you personally feel about the process of aging and, just basically your observations where it comes to other women and how they feel about aging as well. All right. So with that definition out the door, why are women afraid of aging? Let's start with that. Why are we scared of it? I have a couple of things that I wrote down that I personally, these are opinions, okay? I didn't read this in a textbook. Opinions. I will share my opinion and then you can take it away and let me know what your thoughts are. So in my observation, both as a woman and as a clinician, my observations are that most women fear aging primarily because of social programming. That's the first one on my list. Social programming that tells us that aging equals being on the decline and not on the upward route in life. Another reason that I have is beauty standards. A lot of our behavior and a lot of how we show up in the world and show up in our relationships is governed by popular beauty standards. Whatever popular culture says looks good in that moment, we are all trying our best to stay abreast of that. And it whether directly or indirectly is defining how we view ourselves when we look in the mirror. And so I think popular beauty standards, not just in our generation, but in almost any generation, usually goes against the natural aging process. It does not usually embrace the natural aging process. It actually pushes back against the natural aging process. Another thing I wrote down is that I think that we associate our aging with our level of usefulness in society.
Yes.
You become less useful, less valuable the older you are. And I think
Mhm.
that perception makes us fear aging. And the last thing that I wrote, and this is an interesting one that I stuck on at the end, is that I think that women fear aging because they associate it with their ability to maintain romantic relationships. I think partner retention contributes in a huge way to our fear of aging. Am I going to be able to attract a partner? And if I can attract a partner, can I keep that partner after I have attracted them? And so I think partner retention, maybe I should have put that one at the top of the list. I don't know. You can let me know what you think. That's what I wrote down. So I would love to hear what you ladies think. Why are we afraid of aging?
I think you
Who would
should
like to
put that
start?
undesirability at the beginning. I think that should have gone at the top of the list because I think in
Yeah.
Antigua and the Caribbean, that plays into it is top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, when you get to like 40 something, 50 something, you suddenly become undesirable in men's eyes, at least. So I think you should have put that at the top of the list.
Oh
The
dear.
cultural conditioning is what just has us thinking like that. As soon as men start saying, "Oh, they're going for somebody younger," think about it. They're looking at persons who are younger. Um, oh, you're getting old. Your belly getting too big. Your breast sagging too much, and that plays into our psyche quite a bit. And we just start having this irrational fear and trying to compete with the much younger persons, trying to put in the breast implants, the butt implants, trying to do everything to keep that youth. And I guess because nobody has really taught us outside of the cultural conditioning that there is another way to look at aging, to how to embrace it and to live it fully. So sometimes I think we develop this kind of anxiety within ourselves. And along the way, we are not really living. We are certainly not living because we're always aspiring for something else, as you said, trying to keep a partner, a relationship, or something like that. And I think we need like more platforms like these to show women that there can be a balance. There can be a balance about living a really full, rich life, although you're aging. And also, this irrational fear that we have is just unfounded because everybody in the world has to age. Everybody has to go that route unless you're going to die before you age. So there has to be other ways of looking at this concept.
Yeah.
What has been refreshing for me, and I credit, because I'm agreeing with everything that both you and Heather have said so far, totally agreeing with it. But what has been a positive change or evolution of the aging process has been women like Heather herself. There was a time when you thought getting to 40 was old. Now I'm in my 40s. I was like, I don't remember my mom and her parents being like this when they were in their 40s. And then you think, okay, when I get to my 60s and 70s and I look at women like Heather, who still have it going on. And I can even say, looking at even my mom, even she as well has not decided to subscribe to what 70 looked like 30 years ago. I mean, I can't keep my mother in the house. You understand? She's always more than me. And what I look at and admire when I look at people, at women like Heather and my mom, is how they are rewriting that archaic narrative. and they're aging with style, with grace, with sass, and they are just defining how they want to live. And to me, it's not even like, to me, the way they are, you don't even put like an age on it. You just see beautiful women, you see lively women, you see sassy women, you see women who are doing what they want to do when they want to do it and how they want to do it. And to me, that makes me look forward to getting older, to aging, God spare life. That makes me look forward to just embracing what is left. And let me tell you, I don't know if this is coming up later in one of your topics, Therese, but oh, sister child, I'm looking forward to menopause. Me want to go through menopause. I do. I absolutely do. I am
Wow.
tired.
Wow. Okay.
I'm tired. I am tired. I've been seeing my period for 30 years. I'm ready for it to stop. I don't want any more children. I want to just go without the pause.
Listen, I have a podcast coming up in 2 weeks with an OBGYN. I'm going to talk about that. Make sure you tune in.
Tag me. Tag me.
But I hear you. I absolutely hear you. And that makes me want to ask. And I'm gonna get pass the mic over to Celine in a moment.
Yes.
But just that makes me want to ask, or maybe not ask, but just kind of comment and say that when we have the conversation, it almost sounds like it's not aging that we are afraid of necessarily, but rather the things that go along with aging. Maybe poor health, maybe lethargy, and lower energy levels, fewer opportunities, and these types of things that we typically associate with aging, I think is what really creates the fear, and not necessarily growing old itself. Because if asked, most people will tell you that they're not trying to die young. They want to live to see their children and their grandchildren and so on grow up. They just don't want the things that are associated with that process, really. But they go together, you know. So that's a thought that just went through my head. But I'm gonna let Celine take the mic now.
Yes, thank you, Therese. Well, for my part, even though I am the youngest, I just turned 31. So people might think, well, what do you know about aging? What can you bring to, this conversation? But there was a specific time in my life growing up where I was quite concerned. Hold on, there's in the neighborhood, people and their vroom vroom cars and their motorcycles. Hold on. It's going to pass in a second. I was particularly concerned about getting older because when I was little, I wanted to be a ballerina. At one point, it was all I had ever wanted. I remember the same ABS that we're on now. During Christmas time or certain seasons, they would play reruns of certain philharmonic concerts, ballets and stuff like that. So one memory that always stuck out in my mind, it was from the Nutcracker, and there was a soloist who was doing this move where she leapt in the air and she seemed to be floating, and I didn't even care that she was a Caucasian lady, looked nothing like me. I thought it was so magical. And so from that point, I might have been about 7 or 8, that was all I wanted to do. I had dreams of putting Antigua on the map when it came to ballet. So I was very conscious that our arts programs, unfortunately, here in the Caribbean aren't as advanced, perhaps, as elsewhere in the world, America and Europe and stuff like that. So when I finished, I had been doing ballet classes a few times a week. And then when I finished high school, I really wanted my parents to send me to Toronto to like an art school. I had in my head, I had seen movies like Center Stage, and I had seen Debbie Allen's Fame and movies like that. And I really wanted to do that. And in my mind, I had been about 17, and I was very concerned that, my time is running out to be a ballerina. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to make it. Meantime, I had decided to go to St. Mary's University because I had an aunt living in Halifax at the time, because my parents were like, okay, 17 is too young for you to go off on your own to big Toronto, to no big art school. So you're going to go and do a few years at St. Mary's first, do your ballet classes on the side. It will be fine. Then I developed a joint injury. I couldn't do ballet anymore. So that was devastating for me. And I was like, okay, what do I do? I'm still young, I must have been like about, let's say 20 or so, nearing, the middle of my degree. So my parents said, well, you're in university already. Why not just stay, finish your degree? I was doing language, foreign language at the time, major in French. And because I love French, I love languages, love cultures. My granny is from Guadeloupe. Languages are a big thing for me. So in the end, I said, okay, finished my degree. I then went on, I got the opportunity to do an immersion program in this city in France. So all in all, even though the ballet didn't work out, I ended up, my sort of trajectory in terms of culture kind of led me other places, led me to other opportunities. And so, saying all of that to say, I think that sometimes the media or maybe society, as my co-hosts have, my other panelists have mentioned, we kind of get stuck in this predestined kind of set of steps for our lives where I think it's the old sort of adage where you're supposed to go to school, especially here in the Caribbean. You go to school, you maybe go to college, you get a job, you meet somebody, you get married, you have the 2.5 children, the house, the big car, and that's your life until
And don't forget
until
the
you
dog.
retire.
Don't
And then
forget the dog and the cat.
and the dog or the cat. And I had to learn at a young age too, younger than I am now. I'm still young, but I had to learn to pivot, and I had to learn that, okay, just be, your body has not failed you or betrayed you, or you're not useless. You know what I mean? You still have something to bring to the table because, through that sort of disappointment and that injury, I gained other opportunities. I was able to travel. I was able to go and live abroad for a while. And that also kind of blossomed into my interest for head ties as well, which is a separate story. But then I ended up coming back a few years later after my stint in France. I've worked a couple places, and I am now working full time at my parents' boutique. If you've seen the Keeping It Real show, that's where all my fabulous outfits come from. Footnotes Boutique. And I want to say too that we have also survived COVID as a people and the world over. And we have had to learn, in spite of our different ages and, the stages that we're at, our jobs. Some people had to some people lost their jobs, lost a lot of things. They had to start over in spite of where they are in life. So I think even from that, out of that kind of adversity and unpredictability of life, we have had to learn, like, okay, we have to go with the flow. Our lives are not over in spite of the different unpredictable things that can happen. So that's what I'm learning as well, that like our each person's journey is not the same, and just because your life doesn't follow a particular script, that's okay. That doesn't mean that your life and what you're doing isn't worthy and that you are not worthy. I think that is what my experience thus far in my short life of 30 odd years has taught me.
All right.
Therese,
Yes.
if I may, there was a statement that you made before that I just want to pedal back to in terms of ailments, lack of energy, being more behind the fear than the actual process of aging. I think, and again, this is my opinion, I feel like that might have been the case even 10 years ago. But the reality of it is that, again, gonna call on Heather and my mom as examples. I find that people are realizing how important it is to keep moving, to take care of themselves while they're living out loud. And what has been scary, and Celine, you can tell me if you have noticed this among your age group, among your peers, but a lot of young people have been just falling. My goddaughter the other day, and she will be 18 in a couple of months. I know she lost a really close friend that was in her age group, and as a teacher, I keep seeing things like that with my students. They keep losing persons and people who are younger than me, and even for my age group as well. It used to be that when you got to 70, 60, 70, 80, that is kind of where it was. And since the pandemic, I've noticed that I've been getting those
Mm-hmm.
phone calls. I remember when my
Mm-hmm.
grandfather was in his 80s, it's like he could just tell by the way the phone rang that someone was calling to let him know that somebody else had died. And, I've seen it with my mom, but I'm like, holy crap, that's happening with me too. And I'm not in my 50s, 60s, or 70s. Just
Mhm.
a couple weeks ago, lost a dear friend as well. And that shocked everyone. So I think that we can't even say it's the lack of energy, because it's not even staying in a natural course, if you will, of the whole getting older process. But what has been refreshing is seeing persons make the effort to take care of themselves. I mean, Heather spent Heather and Celine's hung out with some of my kids yesterday, and after they left, they were saying something about being in their 50s, 60s. I was like, Heather is in her 70s. They're like, what? What? Miss Harold, what? Oh my goodness. And she
No,
was on
they,
the ground doing that. Like they couldn't believe. So then they're getting to see in real time. You can't
Yeah.
stop my look. Girl, I'm not even gonna tell you what Heather was doing, right? But me tell you, Heather doing
I
plenty
can
more.
guess. I can
Heather
guess.
doing Heather doing plenty more than people even our age, okay? That's a
FYI,
myth. Heather is
FYI,
a walking myth buster right there, let
right?
me tell you.
It
Listen,
is.
I am nearing, I am nearing a half century. I am getting
Mhm.
very close to the age of 50. And when I was a student in school at the Antigua Girls High School, many moons ago, because I graduated from secondary school in 1993.
Oh,
Do
wow,
the
that's
math.
the year one.
That's I've been done from school for your whole life,
My
sis.
whole life.
Shiraz, I didn't realize that. So you were in fifth form when I was in first.
I think so. Yeah, where
Huh?
you were with that group with Semester and
Semester was a year ahead of me.
oh, okay. Well, listen, Auntie Heather was a teacher when I was a girl at secondary school. Hello. And she still a hot girl up to now, because she may be a
Still
hot
hot.
girl back then too, you know.
Still hot.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. She's been hot yelling it. She's been hot yelling it for well over 30 years. I mean, basically right now she's a bona fide hot girl.
Is original. One of the
The
original hot
original.
girls. Serious.
The original. So I'm just saying, we ought not to let our age define us. We ought not. You can do whatever you want at any age, which is
I
why
want to piggyback
our
on
students were losing their minds the other day.
I want to piggyback on what both Celine and Zara, both of them mentioned certain things. Um, it's very important that I've come to that realization for somebody like Celine and that younger generation of how vitally important it is to live at the same time that you're making plans and making goals. I find that growing up, we were just like setting that goalpost there. But in the meantime, you're kind of miserable. You're trying to make the money. You're trying to do this. You're trying to do that. But you were not really living life. We're not really engaging in positive activities, keeping yourself healthy, doing all those things which makes life, really rich and worth living, establishing really great friends and communities, involving yourself in communities and keeping yourself physically active. I just am very conscious of that you can lose your life at any point in time. And I decided when I was about maybe middle age or stuff, and I said, but wait, we only all have one chance at this. Nobody has a do-over. You don't have a do-over. So whatever you do, whatever you want to do, you have to do it well and you have to do it now. So really and truly, life is about balancing everything. because yes, I'm very conscious of the fact that there are lots of middle-aged and very young persons who are, just basically expiring recently. It's kind of like getting kind of alarming. And I hope this is, I hate to use the old cliche about wake-up call, but just really making people more conscious about life and the preciousness of life and how we all can embrace it and live it more fully.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally. I
I
love
want
that
to
you said that.
I want to ask, and this is it's probably going to be a bit of a controversial question, but it is said that Gen Y, or the group that is referred to as the millennials, and for anyone listening who's not sure what group that is, I know people hear that, yes, Celine is Gen Y.
Yeah.
Celine is Gen Y. And the rest of us on here, myself, Zara, and I believe Auntie Heather as well. Could I be wrong about that? Yeah, the rest of us are, I don't know, maybe Auntie Heather might be a different generation. But I think Zara and we're Gen Y.
A boomer.
Actually,
Am I
no,
not considered a boomer?
I am not Gen Y anymore. Gen Y stops at age 42. And I have gone way past 42. So I'm not Gen Y. What? Zara, you are Generation Y, which is millennials.
Is that millennial?
Yes, those are millennials.
Yeah, millennials. Yeah.
And Celine is Gen Z. No.
Me, 19.
No,
I'm
she's
Y.
no, you're a millennial too. Both of you are millennials. Both of you are millennials. So it's me and Auntie Heather, we out here. I am not I'm not anywhere on this list. What is going on? I think Auntie Heather might be a baby boomer. And I am
Yes, that's what I said. I'm a boomer.
Yeah.
You might be Gen X.
I am probably Gen X. Yeah.
I think yes.
Yeah. I'm a boomer.
Yeah. Right. So what people are saying is that the Gen Xers, the Gen Yers, and perhaps the boomers too, are aging way better. They're aging way better than the Gen Zers. Meaning that, those of us who are of the generations, the most recent generations, we are healthier, stronger, more active, more productive, more purpose-driven, full of life than the generation that is 3 years behind us? How is that? Can somebody listen, let's talk about it, because help me.
That's
What's
really
going on?
interesting.
I don't know why I thought I have it the other way around. I thought you were saying that us of the older generations are aging better than the younger ones, like Celine and stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Exactly it.
Oh,
That's what she's saying.
The baby boomers, the Gen Xers, and the Gen Yers look way better. Way better.
Heather, like she ready to tackle this one. I love it.
I'm ready for that.
Tell me. Educate us.
Okay, think about what's happening in the world today. All the economic struggle. Think about it. My generation, we worked hard. Yes, we played hard, but we worked hard. We set our goals, and one of the main goals was like owning our own home. You have your car, you own your own home, and after a while, I have enough money, I'm comfortable enough that I can do some traveling and things like that, just really enjoying life. But guys, the younger generation, like Celine and younger, life is going to be much tougher for your generation. There are figures and studies that are showing that in places like, this big United States, the most so-called developed country in the world, people of Celine's generation almost have absolutely no hope of owning their own home. They will not be able to go on vacations like us elderly folks, go on a nice little Caribbean cruise and do this and play shuffleboard and do whatever else. Life is becoming much more difficult and much more stressful. I don't know if you all agree with that. You can give your views on that, but it has a lot to do with the economic conditions in the world at the moment, and even things like social welfare, national housing, national health care. I don't know if you all realize it, but all those things are going out the window. Where we'll be collecting our little social security and things like that, the younger generation, there might be nothing left for them to collect any social security. So that is one of the reasons why they just feel kind of like almost desperate and a bit hopeless that they're just not seeing those kind of things materialize like we had. I don't know what others think about that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, for my part, I absolutely agree with that. I think that for a little while, that was where some of the pressure on myself came, because again, as we mentioned, we have these kind of societal norms and expectations, a kind of order step by steps, from step one, from kindergarten, go right through to getting your first job, marriage, etc., own a piece of land, buy a house, etc. And I think that for me as well, looking back a couple of years ago, I was starting to feel kind of nervous and pressure and stuff like that, where, okay, you have a little savings account, but I felt like the money was not, I wasn't seeing, okay, when am I going to be able to buy a piece of land? When am I going to be able to buy a house? When am I going to be able to invest in something? Because I was comparing myself. Not that my parents have not always been affirming. I still live with my parents, as many West Indian people or Caribbean people do. So there's no pressure from my parents in comparison to perhaps my American or some of my European counterparts that are either renting from their parents or paying exorbitant rent, etc., or were kind of pushed out of their family homes. I am lucky enough as a young Caribbean woman to still live at home. However, I'm kind of comparing myself, or at a point in my life, I was comparing myself to my parents when they were my age. They had their jobs, they were able, their dollars, their salaries were able to stretch far enough that they were comfortable. They had their jobs, they had a vehicle, they were able to eventually save up and buy a piece of land, build a home. They had the two of us, etc. They were able to send us to good schools, to private schools. So then I am now 31 thinking, okay, but when is that ever going to happen for me? You know what I mean? So that's the first thing. I think sometimes my generation, or speaking for myself, I was feeling that pressure, like, oh my gosh, I'm not a real adult then. I'm not a real Caribbean adult. I don't have all these things that my parents had. But luckily I do have a good support structure where, again, culturally, you know what I mean? Culturally, our parents don't throw us outside at 18. And I think we're still very lucky for that as a culture and as a people. However, comparing myself, Gen Y to Gen Z, I also want to say that perhaps we see some of the same external images and pressures that we're seeing from perhaps the media. We're at a different point in our lives than Gen Z, because when I was in school, I was in first form in 2005 or thereabouts. So at that time, MySpace, High Five, Facebook and stuff like that kind of just came on the scene. I graduated in 2010. I graduated high school in 2010. So I can't imagine now, there was pressure at that point, and there still is some pressure when you look at social media and what the, not only beauty standards, but like standard of living and like people's houses, quote unquote houses, cars, fancy trips and stuff like that. Pressure to have money, all of a relationship, all of these things. There is some pressure from my age group, but I can't imagine what Gen Z coming up must be seeing, or what their type of messages and pressures and images must be. I also think that, for my generation, perhaps, hopefully we have, again, coming back to that same support structure where we might have people like Auntie Heather, people like our parents, older people in society, a kind of a supportive tribe to tell you, no, it's okay okay, I made it through, you will make it, or you're doing well, you're doing fine, take your time, to have that kind of affirmation that, okay, life is different now. Because I think some of the persons in the older generation perhaps don't make that connection, or they don't say, okay, don't rush, there is inflation, the economy is not the same as what it was when I was 20 or 30 to be able to afford all of these things. Take your time, it's a different world now. I think there may still be some pressure from some of the older generation, like, okay, how come you're not married yet, how come, what making to buy a piece of land, what making to do this, you know what I mean? I think there may be, perhaps there still exists a kind of generation gap for some. So that may be some of the contributing factors. I think there's a bit of a generation gap in some places.
I just want to jump in there with something Celine said, because I know sometimes I still struggle with it too, because of the comparison thing. And the comparison, we hear it all the time. And we're socialized to compare. The truth is, no matter what generation we're from, no matter how open and forward-minded and progressive we are, for some reason, we can't break free of the culture of comparison. And with that said, I mean, I still live at home. And it's so funny. I used to have this girlfriend who, from a young age, she had a house in her early 20s. And she was fortunate, and she counted her blessings in the sense that her grandparents had left family land, like a good acre, for her and her siblings. So they are all neighbors. And she used to tell me, she's like, Z, baby girl, if Beverly ain't running you out to that house, you tap there as long as. And, she used to talk about all the financial struggles, all the things that, she would go through. And just even talking with friends, and in no way am I dissuading anyone, because I still would like to have my own space one day. If it doesn't happen, I'm okay. But when I became a mom, I had my daughter at 24. I had just graduated from St. Mary's University, so I'm a husky like you, Celine. I had just graduated the year before, and I had my daughter at 24. No, well, 2 years after. Yeah, 2 years after graduation, I had my daughter. And I made a promise years ago that I would not dilute her childhood. And I wanted her to have, at the least, the same opportunities I had as a child growing up. So I made the decision that even though I would absolutely love to do other things, for me, it was more important to give her that. And I'm fortunate as well that I live with the people that I live with. Sure, we get on each other's nerves sometimes, but for the most part, it's like having roommates that you can laugh with, chill with, get on each other's nerves, steal food from. And, and to me, with that always seems to just put so much pressure on persons when life throws you some curveballs sometimes that you don't expect, you don't cater for. And sometimes you feel alone because everybody else is getting the checklist out of the way, the checklist that society says you should have. On the flip side of that, though, when you actually do stop comparing the checklist and you look at what you want for yourself, void of society, void of what your friends are doing, I think things get easier and you're looking at things that you are enjoying more. I know my daughter says this all the time. Like sometimes she'll just she's so sweet when she's ready. She'll just randomly say, Mommy, oh my goodness, I've traveled so much because of you. You've taken me so many different places and I've got to experience this and I've already seen Broadway and so it's an opportunity cost, yes. But I think it's just important to practice the attitude of gratitude and look at what you do have and what you want to get that is not based on the comparison culture. So if you don't want to be paying a mortgage, girl, take them dollars and go Greece. go visit Kenya, Tanzania, Japan. You know what I mean? If you want to go and get that house, if that is your absolute priority, you would do it and feng shui the crap out of that house. But try as much as possible to divorce your consciousness from the comparison culture.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I looked up the ages of the generation since we were getting them confused. So the greatest generation, 1901 to 1927. The silent generation, 1928 to 1945. The baby boomers, 1946 until 1964. Gen X, 1965 to 1980. Gen Y, or the millennials, 1981 to 1996. And Gen Z, 1997 to 2010. And then, of course, anybody after 2010 is now known as Generation Alpha.
Okay.
So
AI,
I am definitely
Generation AI.
Yeah, I am definitely Gen X. So the question of why the generations, the greatest generation, the silent generation, the boomers, Gen X, why do we all look better than the millennials and Gen Z? That was the question I was trying to pose, really.
Right.
And, you know, I jotted down a couple of things that I am thinking may be contributing to the difference in the aging process. One of the things is fast food. We eat very differently.
Yes.
Our diets look very different. And I believe with all of my heart that our diets contribute to the aging process in a big way. Transportation. Transportation, I think, contributes as well. There was a time when there was not 3 or 4 cars parked in every garage of every home. Now, if there are 4 people or 5 people living in the house, there are 5 cars parked in the garage because everybody in the house drives their own car. There was a time when families could not afford to do that, and people would take the bus. People would walk.
People walk.
People walked.
Yeah.
Nobody walks now. I need to be able to drive everywhere, even if it's just around the corner. And I also need to be able to park as close to where I'm going as possible. And I know that this also is a safety concern. A lot of people do this for safety purposes because walking can often be dangerous. But it is also contributing to our sedentary lifestyles and our lack of movement, and therefore it is advancing the aging process for a lot of people. And social media, I think, contributes indirectly, but it contributes to aging. Why? Because the more time we spend on social media, the less time we spend moving. So there's that. But also, the more time we spend on social media, the more time we are exposed to the social and cultural programming that targets us and creates competitive spirits, creates frustration, creates dissatisfaction with your own life and with your own body, creates stress for you. And stress makes you look old.
Yeah, it does.
So there's that.
Yes.
And the final thing that I'm thinking is that the current generations, they are the most boundary-less generations I have ever come across in my life. Ever. And when I say boundary-less, I mean this is the YOLO generation. You only live once, which means you have to do everything and you have to try everything, no matter how dangerous it is. It is the reason why we have all of these life-altering challenges that you see going around on TikTok and on Instagram. People are not afraid to live stream themselves jumping off the side of a building, standing on crates that could easily fall down and cause them to break every bone in their body. Near-death experiences, like zero boundaries. They are also the generation who have. Sorry?
I said, me afraid for making me not do that.
Right.
I'm not doing
They also have no boundaries where it comes to what the generation before them, their parents, allow them to do. Because we are now living in a time where I will call the police on you if you tell me I can't do whatever it is that I want to do.
Right.
The level of discipline is no longer the same. And
True.
so I cannot set the same boundaries for my children that my parents set with me. And boundaries are not just for keeping you inside and preventing you from enjoying your life. Boundaries are also for your protection. And so where the boundary-less generation resides, there's also less protection and a lot more danger. It's the reason why they do not live as long as we live either. So for all of those, nowadays, when you listen to the obituaries, there was a time when I was a little girl, only old people used to die. The only time a young person died if it had to be a car accident or somebody drowned or something like that. Other than that, when you listen to that announcement, it's only old people, what we call old people. Grandparents, great grandparents. Now, it's the obituaries is for everybody now. Everybody has a spot. Doesn't matter which generation you come from. There's a place for you in the obituaries. But that's because of the times in which we live.
Yeah.
It's true. You're hearing teenagers getting heart attacks, strokes, and it's scary when it's happening to people my age, because and we laugh about it. My friends, we laugh about it that we're at that age where you're asking, so what hurts today? But it's even more scary and devastating when you're just hearing back to back cases of younger people dying. And so I have no scientific proof for what I'm about to say, but I have a theory that to me is adding to the whole why my generation, yours, Heather's, are aging better. And I feel, especially Black women, and I feel that somehow it's tied in to the post-slavery syndrome, traumatic syndrome.
Greetings,
and I know
Sorry, just wanted to shout out my friend.
I feel like these three generations are cognizant of the trauma of slavery, post-slavery. We are cognizant also of the fact that our parents and grandparents were unable to deal with the trauma and inadvertently continue to pass some of that trauma down to us. Now, I said that to say that I feel like whether it is conscious or subconscious, we're just tired, and we are making that conscious effort to do more for ourselves, to live better, to live more wholesome, to speak out. And even something as small as it seems, as speaking out, sharing your truth, standing up for yourself, that relieves so much stress and tension. I am seeing that, and that's this a personal observation that I'm making. I saw a meme that I loved. Growing up, I don't remember seeing older women looking after, I'm paraphrasing here, but growing up, I don't remember seeing women older than me doing self-care, self-love, etc. And I read that meme and I was like, that's so true. But now, looking around, I'm seeing so much more women doing that. I want Heather to give us her diet before we disconnect tonight. I want to know what Heather is eating. You understand? Please. But I'm seeing it more, and even younger persons who are, I'm putting myself first. I need some self-care. I need to relax. I need to rest. I need to take care of me. And that gives me hope.
That's it.
Yes,
and
it's
to
called
add to
conscious aging. Conscious aging.
Yes, absolutely.
We come into that.
Yes, being very Zara. Yes, I have to piggyback on what Zara is saying there. This thing about this trauma that comes up through families, a lot of time not realized, not confronted, not dealt with. But there's always going to be a generation or a person in a family, an individual who realizes and confronts this trauma and does everything in her power or their power to do something about this, to heal, to understand what we went through, and that you don't have to transmit this to the future generations. You don't have to pass on how you were raised up, how you didn't feel love, how you weren't paying attention, how you just didn't have the words to express. First of all, they weren't even allowed to express. You were just told to do. You were told that you don't rest. You just always have to keep moving, always have something to do. So besides that mental load that women carry, you still had the physical load that you weren't allowed to rest. Even on a day or even on summer vacation, you always had to be doing. Well, guess what? I am breaking that. There's some days where I stay in my pajamas till 11 o'clock. It's not like when you had to wake up, oh, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, wake up, have your shower, do this, do this. Everything was so structured. You know, I have broken that curse. I have broken that. I do what I like in my own time. All the activities that I have to do, I put them maybe in one day. So I get dressed, going to St. John's. And by the way, getting dressed is a ritual. Yes, it's a ritual.
I love that.
Putting on your makeup, choosing those jewelry, Therese, putting on your clothes. It's a ritual. It makes you feel good. You want to get out there and you want to face the world. In addition, I find time to keep physical activity going. You cannot just lie down or sit in an easy chair every day as you get older and expect that these things not going to settle down and just come on on you. No, you have to keep, as long as I can keep moving, I'm going to keep on walking. I'm going to continue doing yoga or some other form of activity. I don't pay a therapist, but I diagnose myself and I read and look at a lot of podcasts and realize that I now have a language for a lot of the things that I went through as a woman, as a girl coming up and as a woman, and I'm learning to heal myself. And with all that trauma disappearing, you come into the fullness of yourself. You know, you're living a so much more purpose-filled life. And it's just beautiful overall. And I just wish all of the women could, really find the path.
Yeah.
Love that.
So
I love
go
that.
ahead and jump in.
Yes, I think that Auntie Heather and Zara really summed it up. But just to tie some of their points together, I was looking at it was a page about like Black woman affirmations and stuff like that, and it was this beautiful reel, these beautiful images that were put together. But the caption that was quite big in the center was, because you always hear all these things about you are your ancestors' wildest dreams, but this time for this reel, it was one of our ancestors' wildest dreams was rest, right?
Amen. Yes, I saw that.
About it, because we talk about that trauma that we've had for centuries and through the generations. When we look at our own families as women of color, Black women, Caribbean women, the woman as the backbone of the household, the woman that knew everything, did everything, fed everybody, worked 3 jobs, etc. And when I look at it, both of my grandmothers, but I'm gonna focus on one in particular, on one particular grandmother, my paternal grandmother. She in particular worked 2 and 3 jobs to raise her children. She had a day job. She was in retail. She was like a sales assistant at a store in town. And then at night now, she was known for sewing. She was a very good seamstress. So then by night, she would be sewing for people, maybe by candlelight, etc. And I realized that the comparison with my 2 grandmothers, my maternal grandmother, when she retired, she would always take a nap in the day. She would do whatever she had to do, go to town, run her errands, etc. She would take a nap, right? But my paternal grandmother, the only how is only now she going to lie down in the day. And I think that because eventually she developed dementia, unfortunately, and I think that the reason why is because she never rested. She probably skipped meals because she was too busy running around working her several jobs, etc. So saying that to say, as my two co-panelists said as well, we cannot put ourselves and our bodies and our well-being last. And in spite of what people might say, you're selfish, you're this, you're that, you only have the one body and you only have your one life. So we do have to take care of ourselves, rest our bodies, exercise, nourish our bodies, because it's important. We only have the one life.
And even that, Celine, and it's it's something I laugh about all the time, that parents and grandparents and even some married couples or spouses, I should say, cannot manage to see somebody at rest. Oh, you're just lying down, you're lazy. Yeah. Why are you lying down? I have a friend that he talks about that with his wife. He's like, he's convinced it bothers her to rest and to see him at rest. And I'm like, for real, boy, because the same thing. It was not, like, what do you mean? I'm doing something, I'm resting. And there's a meme as well, just because I am resting or something like it doesn't mean I'm busy. I'm busy resting. I am busy. I'm busy resting. Me doing nothing is something.
Yes. I want to piggyback off of that because listen, that is a part of the post-traumatic slave syndrome that you mentioned earlier. The idea that if you are being still, that if you are in a moment where you are not engaged in movement and activity, that this symbolizes laziness. This symbolizes a lack of productivity. This somehow speaks to a flaw in your character. This is literally a relic of slavery because this is how slaves were programmed. You were not to be sitting still. If you were sitting still, that was a problem. It meant that you were decreasing the level of productivity on the plantation. And as a relic, it flowed down through the generations who continue to tell their children that if the sun is up and you are still in bed, that you are a lazy person. In reality, what it has done, it has turned us into a group of overcompensators, particularly women. Overcompensators, like we spend our entire lives doing and doing and doing because we are programmed to believe that our value is directly linked to how much we are able to do. Your value isn't just innate, as in on your own, just being, you are valuable. No, your value is attributed slowly to you over time based on how you have worked and accomplished things through life. This is a lie. It's a lie, people. It's a lie. You are enough all by yourself if you don't do anything.
Right. But it's not only that, it's even not only the doing, but it's the doing for other people. Right? I think it's the serving. I think it's the serving others. But what about you? What about what I want? What about my own kind of self-care, my own exercise, my own body? Again, I think it's that old time, and it does, I think, as we had mentioned, come from things like slavery, where you are only valuable if you're serving somebody else. If you're serving yourself, you're seen as selfish. Like, why you want to do that?
Selfish.
You know what I mean? You have to be the mother, the daughter, the sister, the niece. You have to always be doing for other people and then put yourself last. And I think the generations now, or even from the baby boomers like Auntie Heather come down, we have decided, no, we have needs too. We have desires too. We have dreams and ambitions. And I think that is what has kind of changed our ideas of aging as well.
Yeah. Rest is a part of the work that we do. Rest is a part of the work. It is not the opposite of the work. It's a part of the work. Why does it have to be a part of the work? Because it is the thing that ensures the continuity and the sustainability of the work. If you do not include rest in your schedule as a part of the work will eventually come to a grinding halt, because the sustainability will be directly impacted, because how long you can keep the work going depends on how often you rest. So we have to it's like, this is a whole paradigm shift. And this is what I tell my clients. Stop thinking of rest as the opposite of work. It is not. It's a part of the work. It must be in the schedule with all the other things. It's a part of the work. It's a part of the dynamic that makes up your life. And if you leave out that part of the dynamic, the rest of the dynamic will eventually come crumbling down like the walls of Jericho. It's a part of the work, not the opposite of it. And to your own detriment, you leave it out, which is why you end up in my office, right? So you got to, when you end up in my office, is because you have not been properly managing the dynamic. There is a balance that is missing from your dynamic. Either you're doing too much of something or too little of the other. And you come to me to restore the balance. And many, many times, especially with Black women, what is throwing their balance off is that rest is not a part of the schedule at all. They have been taught that self-care is selfish. And that rest, which is a part of self-care, is equivalent to laziness and a lack of productivity. Listen, the more productive persons are the persons who have learned to rest when it is required, right? Okay, now I want to shift gears a little bit and I want to ask a question. This is a discussion around women and the fear women have of aging. My question is, why is it that the men are not afraid? Why are we afraid, but the men turn into zaddies when they hit the age
God,
of 50?
I hate that word.
It's
socialization. It's the socialization.
Why are they considered more valuable when they're 60, but the 60-year-old woman, nobody wants it?
I'm not totally convinced that is totally true.
Educate us.
They do have a fear of aging because they're fearing that time when they're no longer being able to perform, when they're no longer going to be able to attract the young ladies, which they are attracted to. They do have a fear. But there's a period in between there where culturally we refer to them as these, they're so distinguished looking. They start to get a little mustache and beard, and we say they're distinguished. But the lady, she's over the hill. She's going downhill fast. I don't think it's totally true that they don't fear aging. They do. I see something like a pattern where when the realization really hits them, I see a very fast decline, unlike women. I don't know if you all have observed this as well. When they finally get to the realization, maybe some kind of illness, maybe they realize that they become impotent or something like that, there's a very fast decline after that. So I'm not totally convinced that women, but yes, there is a group of us, women and men, who continue to perpetuate this thing about them being these distinguished men at a certain age. So
I agree.
The fear that women
I agree
have
with
is,
you,
yes,
Heather.
they're no longer going to feel desirable. Nobody going to find them useful anymore. I'm no longer going to be the apple or the center of everybody's eye, the center of everybody's world. Some people are going to want to come and visit me anymore because they don't really want to hang out with an old woman. But that's my input on it.
I like it. I like it. I like it.
I
Who
agree
else
with
wants
you,
to jump
Heather.
in on that?
Yeah, listening to Heather reminds me of like when my mom and her friends talk, and they have a saying that when the significant like sickness, death scare, that's when they will propose to their longtime people, and then the woman gets a pity ring, death ring, sick ring. The first time I heard my mom say that, I was
Where
just like, oh
where
my
that? The
god,
pity ring?
A death
pity
ring?
ring or death ring or sick ring.
What? Oh my God.
So they have a near death experience. That's when they're like, okay, I'm gonna need somebody to look after me. They get very, very ill, right? And they realize, okay, you know what? She's been holding it down. I need to marry this woman because chances are I'm gonna get worse. So she gets a sick ring.
Wow.
Wow.
Well,
What?
Had to laughing. Had to know me talk about. Had to know me talk about. Had to laughing. And let
what
me
I
tell you,
heard.
I was very young. I was probably in my 20s the first time I heard my mom and her friends use those phrases. And I was like, what the hell? But observing, getting old, I'm like, they know what they're talking about, boy, because some of these men out here, for them, they have to put on a show. And again, the socialization, they are the protectors. They are conditioned to be the hunters. They are conditioned to be the proud ones walking. And when they can't do that anymore, to me, the aging process knocks a harder blow to men and their self-esteem, even though social media or media in general would have us believe that it's the woman. And truth be told, again, we're looking at how things are changing and evolving, or maybe not evolving, but maybe coming more to light. A lot of younger men are seeking relationships with older women.
Mm.
I know someone that was in a relationship, young person, and she was devastated because the boyfriend broke up with her for an older woman. And she was absolutely devastated. Like the questions she was asking herself is what you would typically hear in the reverse. Like, you know, his old ass gone to some younger woman and this and that. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not da 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 da. It was in the reverse. So I think that these
He
things
got
are more coming to light. I mean,
crucified.
hey, you have that old movie. Oh my Lord, what was
Not
it?
Stella got her groove back.
No, not older than that, man. Me and Mrs. Jones.
Oh, I mean, you know the movie there.
The movie with the mom, his girl, the neighbor.
Dustin Hoffman movie.
Was he young? Is the graduate?
The Graduate.
Is it the graduate?
The Graduate.
Right. When the mother, the neighbor, older woman takes an interest in him, and he's like, "Holy crap!"
Well,
So it has been happening, and I
yeah.
think now it's just coming more to light.
Yeah. Well, what I've heard,
Bradley
two
is saying that some older women really like younger men too.
Yeah, some do. Some do.
They have the energy. They have the energy to rest. Remember now, the woman's sex drive goes up as the man goes down. Take what you will from the finger movements.
Why did you do that?
Thank
motion
you.
with your-
Thank you for that graphic, Zara. Thank you. Thank you for the visuals.
Well, a couple of things I can say on that. I have heard some of the older persons say that. So I am agreeing, absolutely with Zara and Auntie Heather. I have heard some older people say that yes, some men, they don't take the aging well at all. Like they will have a midlife crisis then. We all hear about the midlife crisis where they'll be married, good, happily married, wife, children, everything going good. Then it kind of, I don't know if it dawns on them or the realization shocks them and then all of a sudden they might want to, as you all mentioned, prove their prowess or prove their worth or prove their youth by leaving their wife or their partner of however many years and trying to now prove that they can attract, or they can get, as we say, they can get a younger woman. But as I've heard from the older women in my family and my family members, peers and stuff like that, as Zara mentioned, to only make a piece of sickness hold them, right? They will then, the younger woman, they will find out, the old backside, they will find out. The younger women, I've heard stories where the younger women will just cut them off to their wife's house, to the first woman's house, and drop them. They left them there, or leave them in the hospital or whatever. And then the wife, now that they've left, now, no, I've heard about it. That's true stories.
Wow.
I've heard about
Right.
it, where if you call them, they'll get a call. Right, Mrs. So and so or Miss so and so, come for your husband, or he's sick. He's at the hospital. Go and look for him in room so, and then gone. Right, and then there is where Zara's kind of anecdote about the sick ring or the death ring and stuff will now come in, because the man then realizes the person that you had that had been loving you for who you were all along, that was the first person, and you left them for what? Because the age process scared you. That's the first thing. The second thing, I have heard that in spite, and I do believe, to backtrack a little bit, I do believe that in some ways age is just a number. Yes, we might have some generations differences and different experiences, but I do think that some people can meet in the middle, and some people can have things in common despite their age. So you may see younger women dating older men, or older women dating younger men as well. It just kind of depends. I have heard some conversations about that, or seen some conversations online where some younger men, on the flip side, and a different sort of cause, I guess, is that some younger men want a woman that is already, experience is not the word I'm looking for, but it's already complete, then already formed. She has her house, she has her career, she has her money, she has her big car, etc. I do agree that, I'm not going too heavily on the sugar baby type of lifestyle culture, but some men do want to be taken care of. On the flip side, though, on the other side, I think that some men, they have said that they're attracted to the confidence that an older woman would exude, whereas maybe some women their age don't have that same type of confidence, aren't as self-assured. You know what I mean? So there are a few different dynamics at play when it comes to things like age differences. But I also want to say that I think, going back to one of our original points, it's not that men aren't as affected by aging or aren't as scared. I think the emphasis is placed on us as women, because again, we were always socialized since time immemorial to be the childbearers and the nurturers, and then we still have this image that as soon as a woman is no longer able to have children, perhaps, or no longer wants to have children, she is then and therefore useless to the society at large, or worthless as a person. So I think that is where the difference in the emphasis comes from, even though both genders can be a little scared or a little startled about aging. I think that's where the difference, or the cause for the difference in focus, comes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that last statement that you just made, because this is, whenever anyone poses this question to me, the question we're currently discussing, as to why women appear to be more impacted by this fear of aging. And I say appear to be, because we've already established that the men do have some fear too. Why does it appear that the women fear it more? Though it may not necessarily be the case, I believe it appears that way because the assets that are considered most valuable for each gender, I think, is what determines that perception. For example, a woman's most valuable assets, especially in Western society, not just Western society, I think this is a global thing. A woman's most valuable assets are considered to be her ability to reproduce, to bear children, and her beauty. Those are considered her two most valuable assets. Never mind the education, the accomplishments, the accolades. Those, for some reason, get knocked further down the list. How you look physically and your ability to bear children are categorized as your top most valued assets, unfortunately. That's just how the world works. A man's most valuable assets would be his accomplishments, particularly his professional accomplishments, his financial stability, his social capital. Those are the things that are most valued in the male gender. And when is a man most likely to have all of those things intact? He is more likely to have those things later on. He's not going to have those things in his 20s unless he was born to a rich family. And even if he was born to a rich family, he would have the financial stability, but the other things he would not yet have acquired. And so by the time a man would have acquired the things that are considered to be his most valuable assets, he's middle-aged. And so the middle-aged man then becomes more valuable than the middle-aged woman because her most valuable assets are in decline at that point. Her looks and her ability to bear children either are already on the decline or they're gone. And so by the time they are both middle-aged, he is considered a catch while she is considered well, I don't know what word to attach.
She's washed up, or she's
washed up.
or
Right.
she's what is another one? It's not coming to me, but it'll come to me. But things like that, terms that indicate, not spinster. There's another one. The terms that indicate, it's always funny how the middle-aged man is the bachelor, right? Bachelor, but the woman, we don't get a cool term. We don't get a cool term like bachelor. We get
you're either an old maid,
old fowl, you're old maid. You know what I mean? We don't get a cool one. We'll have to create a cool term for ourselves because we deserve one. We do.
I agree. I agree.
So it's
I think that's why somebody came up with the title cougar, because it sounds sexy, but also it carries some kind of sexual connotation to it.
Yeah.
But
again,
I don't mind. I don't mind that sexual connotation. Like, come on, Therese. I don't mind.
All right, Zara Cougar Errol.
Bop, bop.
Is there a male equivalent of a cougar? Do we have one of those?
The male equivalent of the cougar is the zaddy.
But it don't sound the same. You see what they've done? It's not the same. It's not. It's simply.
I hate the word zaddy. You know why? To me, zaddy sounds like you are trying to act young. That you're so fake. You understand? Whereas cougar now, have you seen a cougar? That animal is gorgeous.
Fair.
That is a proud animal on a proud animal on the prowl.
Okay.
That has dignity. But as zaddy, you think of some old man trying to get his youth back, trying overly hard to be young. Whereas the cougar now, she ain't trying. You come into me, boo. I'm waiting.
Listen. Well, that escalated quickly.
I'm just saying. Shirley, you bring them up in
Let me change the topic.
You brought it up. You brought it up. And you know what? Why can't we talk about that? And I will tell you this. And Celine, my number is probably never going to change. So feel free to drop me a text, a WhatsApp, or whatever the social media platform is in like 10 years. I find that sex gets better with the aging process. I don't know if it's that you picked up a few tricks. I don't know if it is the whole getting more comfortable with yourself. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if you now look forward to it, Therese. I'm looking forward to sex in my 50s. Me can't wait.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. Auntie Heather is dying. We've lost Auntie Heather, everybody.
Auntie
I'm
Heather, you
just
okay over there?
Auntie Heather is dying.
Bring it on.
All right, here it is question now. Lord have mercy. I feel like I need to plan a podcast in which we're talking about cougars and zaddies specifically. And just talk about that, the zaddy culture and the cougar culture, and what's going on with that out here
And
in
also
these streets.
the connotations as well, because I find when even from some sitcoms and stuff like that, you will have some, you know, to me, zaddy is said in the positive when it comes to things like pop culture, movies, and stuff like that. And
Yes,
cougar sometimes it's positive, but I've seen some negativity about it too,
I
where it's like a
agree.
woman who is a man eater. She's preying on this innocent, poor younger man who, you know. I find the connotation, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but I have still seen the zaddy, more distinguished older man rhetoric or image, whereas I am still seeing the cougar image of the older woman who is desirable, who expresses her desire, etc. I'm seeing it said in a negative sense.
Yeah,
So I think you do need to have an episode on why that is. Why is one positive
absolutely.
and one negative?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. We still live in a society that frowns upon an older woman finding a younger man sexually attractive, while an older man, however, is welcome to find younger women sexually attractive. There is absolutely no frown on that. And I believe that this school of thought comes from what we refer to in psychology as the Madonna whore complex, which, by the way, we're going to do a podcast on next week, Sunday. And the Madonna whore complex basically speaks to the fact that you are either pure and chaste
Or you're not.
or you're not. There is no in between.
There's no in between.
And it also speaks to the fact that our women are viewed, you know, when you are viewed as pure and chaste, you are compared to
Mary,
the Virgin Mary. You know, you give birth to humanity, you know, that kind of thing. And if you are a mother, how can you be attracted to someone who could possibly be your child? Do you know what I mean? It creates a cognitive dissonance in your mind. You know what I mean? And that is really where that comes from. That cognitive dissonance, however, does not exist with the male because he does not give birth. It's kind of crazy how the human brain interprets that.
Interesting. But what I will say though, because I know that one of my friends mentioned to me the other day that she is, you know, not that we're older, because when Sex and the City was on TV, we were not allowed to watch it. But she was saying, girl, you know, I'm now rewatching Sex and the City. And, you know, I won't touch on the lack of diversity and representation. You know, that's a different conversation. But she was saying, to say that everybody lauded Carrie, you know, she's the main character, etc., and Carrie. But she was like, honestly, her favorite character now is Samantha, not only because she dated the younger man, etc., but Samantha was always very open and honest about what she wanted. She owned it. She would even say, you know, well, yeah, you know, y'all know that I'm a slut and I love sex and this and that. But she would own it. And I think that she was respected for that. You know what I mean? Where people knew where they stood with her. She said what she meant. She meant what she said. And she was like, yeah, I love to date. I love sex. I enjoy it. Yes, I'm an older woman. Ray. And I think that, you know, that kind of stuck with me when my friend said that people think, you know, people are always on Carrie, or what's the other one that
Miranda, Charlotte.
That, you know, people thought, and I think there was a time when people were like, oh, I'm more of a Charlotte, I'm more of a this, but my friend now is like, no, I want to be like Samantha. Like, as I continue to age and come into my womanhood and enjoy my 30s, yes, I want to be more like Samantha. She's amazing. She's great. I think that's great.
Yeah,
I never wanted to be like Charlotte. Charlotte was boring. But if we're going to be talking about Sex and the City, Can
Mm.
we talk about the original Sex and the City girls, aka the Golden Girls?
Ah,
And
yeah.
they tried, I mean, that show was groundbreaking for its
Mhm.
time. And all
Yes.
the other
Mhm.
sitcoms, Sex in the City, Living Single with Queen Latifah, Girlfriends, all these shows are modeled off of the Golden Girls.
Right.
And one of the main things that that show tried to do is break the stereotypes surrounding the aging process, and
Mhm.
specifically the aging process and love, the aging process and a sex life, the aging process
Mhm.
and romance.
Mhm.
So let
Mm-hmm.
me tell, like, I binge watch the Golden Girls all the time.
It's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Blanche was my
Yeah.
favorite, of course.
Blanche is my
Yeah,
favorite. Blanche.
I love Sophia.
Sophie cool too.
Nice, nice. I like it. I like where this conversation is going. I just highlighted a comment from Bradley because we do have some males watching the podcast, even
Mhm.
Hi,
though,
Bradley.
right,
Hi.
we're talking about women. The men are here supporting us. And Bradley says, I'm 58, live with one queen for almost 30 years. We get tired together. I like that. I like that
I
part.
like that too.
Yeah, I like that part. Age
I like that
difference,
too.
4 years. I'm good with that. Don't have to worry about trying to act younger than I am.
That's good.
This is transparency for you. That is
Yeah,
healthy.
Mhm.
I like that.
I like it.
All right. Question. Another question. I'm filled with controversial questions today. Here is the question I have here now. So, because of this fear of aging, or maybe I could remove the word fear and just call it a lack of desire to age, or a desire to slow down the aging process, however you want to put it. That leads a lot of women to jump on whatever the most recent beauty trends happen to be. I want to know if, when I engage in activities or processes that are meant to slow down the aging process, like when I choose to dye my hair and cover up my grays, when I, and by the way, FYI, my hair isn't black. Well, those persons who know what my hair looks like, my whole head is gray. I am salt and pepper completely. But you wouldn't know by looking at me, sis, because listen, dark and lovely is the name of the game, right? We dye those grays, right? So is this covering grays? Is this using topical um, remedies for tightening your skin and getting rid of wrinkles? Is cosmetic surgery, Botox, whatever it is this just another form of self-care and self-love? Or is that me being afraid of aging?
Hmm. I think there's a thin line. I think
Some
There's
women
a
will
little,
argue
there's a
that
little of
they're
both.
not afraid of aging. This is
It's
just,
definitely
this is my self-care.
I think there's a thin line, or as Auntie Heather said, there is a little of both. Because at the end of the day, look,
both.
it's your body, it's your life. You have to be able to do what makes you feel good and do what makes you feel happy. But I think, I mean, I suppose I shouldn't answer your question with a question, but for me, are you, how to say, are you falling into the how to say, the anti-aging trap by disguising it as self-care, or is it something that you, how to say, how honest are, okay, let me put it another way, as long as you're being honest with yourself, then I think that's what I'm coming to. Do what makes you happy, but once it's not to your detriment, and once it is you being honest with yourself. That's what I would say about that.
Hmm.
Sometimes I am
That feels like a slippery
wondering.
slope.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about the persons who go that way. Have to get my eyelids lifted, remove the wrinkles,
Mm-hmm.
plump the lips, and stuff like that. I think my concern goes back to something I mentioned before about the conscious aging. I always wonder about like those movie stars and those social media, celebrities. I sometimes I wonder if they're happy after they've had all of this stuff done and the tummy tuck and so on. I am so much about like quality of life and consciousness and living a beautiful life and embracing aging and stuff like that. I always wonder about getting to the mind of persons who do everything, the full body works, and how comfortable and I don't know if I'm finding the right words. Are they embracing life and living after doing that? Are they happy within themselves? Still have that high level of self-acceptance? All those things. I just wonder because I see a lot of those stars on shows, those Real Housewives and whatever, and they get all these things done. I know a lot of the shows are scripted, but like in their everyday life, does that really bring them that kind of
confidence and
fullness
joy?
and joy and everything? That to me is always a little bit of concern in the back of my mind because I can do all those things, but still be the most person in the world. And me, I'm all about being happy and being true to myself and self-confident and all those things. So that's always just a question. Yeah, another question that I have in my mind.
I remember watching something like a
those are excellent
documentary
questions, though.
on that some time ago, and the underlining response is that a lot of them, because they're celebrities, they do get caught up in the pressure of staying relevant and the appearance that they need to have for the actors, getting the roles. But what I've also seen too is, and maybe it is some of those actors, directors, and screenwriters saying, screw this younger thing. We're going to embrace older folks. One of my favorite movies is It's Complicated with what's her name? Meryl Streep. Steve Martin, isn't it? And that Baldwin guy.
Yes, I know that
Alec
movie.
Baldwin. Yeah, it's one of my favorite. I remember when my best friend and I went to watch it at the movies, we actually snuck in a bottle of wine. And I loved it because once again, it looked at love at a golden age, and I find there have just been so many more movies being produced that, to me, they're sending the message that you're not dead until you're dead. So start that new job, take that trip you've wanted, fall in love, have sex, and I've been seeing just so many movies and series, or I should say more, being produced that speak to getting older, but living.
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful. Absolutely. I love that. People are waking up to the fact that you're not dead until you're dead. So and you can, as long as you're still alive, you can do whatever you want. As long as you are still alive, you can. Listen, it is not too late, and you are not too old. If you don't take anything else away from this podcast tonight, remember that you are not too old, and it's not too late. Whatever it is you want to do, at whatever age you're at, do it. Reminds me of a story I heard once of a man who was celebrating his 100th birthday. And at the birthday party, somebody came up to him, as people are wont to do to centenarians, and asked them, what's the secret of long life? And those types of questions. And one person asked him if he had any regrets. And he said that he had always wanted to learn to play the violin. He had loved the violin since he was a little boy, since he was a child, but his parents could not afford to send him to violin lessons. And he always said when he got old enough and made his own money, he was going to go learn to play the violin. But when he became an adult, he got a wife, he had some kids, he had a job, life took over, he never went. He got to the age of retirement And at that point, he was like, I could go learn to play that violin now. He was like 60. And he went and signed up for violin lessons. And he went out that evening and he told his friends that he was going to violin lessons, and they laughed him to scorn. They were like, man, what you talking about? You're going to learn to play violin at age 60. It's going to take you 10 years to learn to play because your brains are so old. Nobody goes to music lessons at this age. People go and learn to play an instrument when they're 4 or 5 years old. What you think you're doing? You're wasting your money and your time. This is what his friend said to him. And he listened to them and did not go. He lost his, he lost
lost the nerve,
the nerve, and he changed his mind and he did not go. The next thing you know, he lived to be 100. And he said to that person that night at his 100th birthday, he said, if I had gone to learn to play the violin when I was 60, I would have been playing for 40 years by now.
Look at that.
Even if my friends were right and it had taken me 10 years to learn, I would have been playing for 30 years by now.
True.
Either way, I would have been playing for decades if I had gone to that first lesson. Moral of the story is, you are not too old, and it is not too late.
Yes.
All
and
right.
to surround yourself with supportive friends.
Now we're going to start winding up. Yes. Yeah. Yes. What kind of friends did he have? I was like,
those.
I mean, what kind of people?
And sometimes that's the problem,
The worst.
We let people get into our head because they're too afraid to do it.
That's it.
Yeah. They think they're too old, so they have convinced themselves that you're too old. Like, listen, sis, you have a seat. Have several seats, as a matter of fact. And I'll be over here doing what I want to do with my life. Because this is no. Anyway, let's wrap this thing up by talking a little bit about conscious aging. Auntie Heather has mentioned that several times. We are not going to end this podcast without touching on that, because that, I feel like, really is the whole point of this conversation. It is to encourage the art of conscious aging. And if there's anybody listening or watching right now who has never heard this terminology before, you never heard anybody use the term conscious aging, we are introducing you to this term tonight, and we're going to tell you what it looks like and how you can get it done, because this is what we want to promote here on this platform. We do not want to promote fear of aging. We want to promote the opposite of that, which is conscious aging. So I'm going to let Auntie Heather start us off on that conversation right there, because I think she has already mastered the art of conscious aging.
I came to the realization that, as I told you before, that life was something that I wanted to enjoy. I wanted to break away, and I have broken away from the societal norms and beliefs that, at certain age, you must act this way and you must act that way. And I decide I am going to go against the grain. I am going to break all the rules. Okay? Nobody's going to tell me what I'm supposed to do at what age. Oh, you mean you're really going to do that? No. I'm not going to listen to those voices out there. I'm going to make my own rules and age on my own terms. I'm not going to succumb to the cultural belief of who and what I should do and be after 50, 60, 70, at whatever age. Okay? So I do things like practicing mindfulness. This is something that I would like to leave on this thing, on this podcast. It's about being present and living in the moment.
Yes.
I'm going to give you an example. Celine's age is what again? The Gen Zers?
I am why.
Think about this. There's this beautiful concert going on with a performer who, like, the whole world wants to see or whatever. And I'm there in this, surrounded by all of Celine's like age group kind of thing. Okay, let's say Tina Turner. Tina Turner, for an example. I get to experience this woman. And I'm just there in this auditorium with the surround sound and the music. And I am just like transported somewhere else away in my mind. And all of Celine's age group have their phones out and they're up like this, blocking my view of my favorite Tina Turner. And I often wonder, are they really experiencing that moment in time,
Fully.
in that place, and having that memory? No, they're not, because they focus on videotaping it on the phone. And what are they going to do with that videotape when they finish? Are they going to play it back? But that won't be the same as being there and being in the moment. There are lots of times and activities and places and things that I do that just transport me to other places, like other realms. And I just wish other people can experience that joy in moments. I find that recently, over the years, like very special moments, like seeing my granddaughter graduate, and I just get emotional and teary eyed. Whereas everybody else is running and scampering all over the church trying to snap a. We'll get a video. Some professional photography will get a video from them. But are you really in that moment? That moment is not going to happen again. You understand what I mean? The birth of a baby. They're just these moments that make me emotional. Why did I get emotional on the show again that night, Zara? I forgot. No, we're not going back there. But I want people to really practice being in the moment of living life and stop, worrying and looking and worrying about doing this and we have to do that. There's simple little things. You wake up every day. When I look out of the kitchen window and I see a bright blue sky and I see the sun out, my spirit just lifts, There's so many other things that really lift my spirit, and nice scenery. When Antigua gets a lot of rain and it's lush and green, I don't know, it just does something inside of me. So that's about living in the moment. Stop worrying about things over which you have no control. I have learned that. I have learned to do that. Sometimes I still lie down and agonize and worry about this and worry about that. Listen, I'm worrying like this. I don't have any control. I can't. There's no way that I can change that. So, try and live in the moment. Stop worrying about things they can't control. I have learned to accept the impermanence of things. I recognize that everything in life is temporary. A lot of things are temporary. And the sooner you learn to accept that. For instance, some people, get on all high and mighty. Maybe I got a new car, I got this or whatever. Materialistic, into material things. I have let all of that go. I have started to divest years ago, started to divest myself of material things in the scheme of things and the years that I have left. I stopped holding on to things. Yeah, there are a few little items that are very, very dear to me, but I think it's important to start doing that. Just like there are lots of persons who are not prepared for retirement, I think we have to start preparing ourselves for aging. And that's something that I find you don't do enough of and don't really practice that mindfulness. Focus on the present. Yes, that is one for me. I always think about my mortality. Some people don't want to think about death and about aging. I don't know why that is. Death is a part of life. Aging is a part of life. And the sooner we come and accept that impermanence, the better it be for us. And the more we will appreciate the time that we have left. Okay, I don't want to take up any more time. I have lots more, but I'm going to hand over to Zara.
Loving the pearls. Loving these pearls.
I love it.
Loving
Absolutely love it. Those are, I feel like you should go ahead and give us the rest of your list, I think you should give us. I mean, no,
Okay.
this is really valuable
Yeah.
information. Like this is the meat and the potatoes of the
Yeah.
discussion, really.
Yeah. Along with like hoping for all the positive and things in life, I have also been preparing. I've prepared myself a long time ago that there always will be setbacks as well. I think the younger generation just think that life is just about all the ups, all the ups. The sooner you realize that life is like this, it's like one of those roller coasters, and that you can prepare yourself of how you're going to handle the low points in your life, you will not have so much stress, related to you, and you won't fall apart when something happens because your mind is so prepared for the inevitable and the impermanence of things that happen that you also need to cultivate a positive mindset. By the way, I find that a lot. I have been so conscious that I view and come into contact with persons, and I realize I don't want to be around those persons who have a very negative mindset. You have to associate with persons with a positive mindset like yours. I have come into contact with persons that as soon as you meet them, your spirit, I got up happy, went to town, and your spirit just does like this. Oh, yeah, I woke up this morning, the car broke down. And there are persons like that in life. And I don't think there's anything that we can ever do to change that. That's just their mindset. But you have to be prepared for that kind of person and have the ability to disassociate yourself from having that kind of negative bubble around you all the time. Another thing that you have to practice in life is approaching people. Yes, you'll be disappointed a lot of the times, but approaching other people from a position of love and empathy. That will serve you very well. You listen to them. Sometimes you greet a person and meeting them for the first time, and I have every positive outlook that they are good people at heart. But sometimes they can really disappoint you. But then after, you know what to do with that. But don't approach them like I don't know what is it with women who look at other women and just suddenly get this thing in their head that I just hate she, I don't love her. They know absolutely nothing about the person. They don't do anything to find out who that person really is. So those are all the things that we will help to assist us to not be so stressed, not to be so terrified of what's ahead of us and all the challenges we're going to have to face. Um, what else do I have? I made my notes.
Ready.
um, Finally, I'll just wrap up by saying everyone can help change how we view aging. A society where age is celebrated and everyone, regardless of their age, can lead a life of dignity, respect, and opportunity. My sister lives in the United Kingdom, and recently she was invited to be a part of a campaign. The campaign was going to show how we have kind of the aging group have kind of been silent, they have been marginalized, they've been made to feel invisible. And this campaign, the images were going to be plastered across the double-decker buses and all over London. She's going to have to update me in that campaign because I don't know what became of it. And I'm still looking forward to see her face on the side of a double decker. But those are the things that society can help to do. Social media, television, they all have a part to play, and stop making this whole generation of baby boomers and along feel like if we're just invisible, that as soon as we pass the age of 50, we're put out the pasture. We're not seen, we're not included in movies, we're not included. The only ads we're included in something to do with old age pension or old age something. I think we're much more than that.
Yeah.
And I think we can be a very valuable and integral source to the younger generation. After all, we have all this wisdom. I would like to be included in a place where I can go and read stories for little children. Where one more example I have to give you. I remember just the other day, my grandson, they had something at school, and all of them had to come to school dressed up as an old elderly person. Listen, I cracked up. So all of them had like vests, they put on great, and they were walking like this, right? So that was them at there, because I think they were trying to teach them how to be kind to older generations and stuff. But that played into his psyche, because when we had the show, on the Keeping It Real show, where we were talking about aging, he wasn't having it. He said, "No, I don't like this topic. I don't want to talk about aging because I don't want to get old." Now, you see what that does? He saw the images that were portrayed of these old people, and he didn't want to watch the program anymore because he didn't like that topic. He doesn't want to get old, and he didn't like the topic about aging. And that just said something to me about how the media and stuff portrays the elderly. So, Therese, I am going to continue living my life fully to the best of my ability. I'm going to give back to the younger generation. Well, Zara and Celine both know that I do that. I give back in whatever capacity that I can. I help women to raise their level of self-esteem, to be really strong, to forget all about the past trauma, forget all about how we have been socialized, and forging a new path to these powerful, wonderful, beautiful Black women that I know we are.
Yes,
Love
and
it.
we love that for you.
Here, here.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. That was like, I don't have anything to add to that. I have nothing to say more to that. That's like let's just give our parting shots. Let's just give our final words. I'm gonna give Zara and Celine an opportunity to give their parting words to our listeners, whether you are listening to us live right now or you are watching this video at some point in the future. Um, let's close off. What would you like to leave the listeners with? Let's start with Celine.
Well, to kind of sum up what Auntie Heather said, and I think as you both mentioned, Therese and Zara, Auntie Heather was dropping the gems. She was dropping the pearls of wisdom. So I'm just gonna kind of say some things from my own perspective or in my own words. If there are any 30-year-olds or whatever age you are, regardless of the age, I think as Auntie Heather said, don't let anybody put their expectations on you or their fears or their limitations. I think a big thing for me, just a quick example, my brother got married about a year ago. He was lucky enough to find somebody who he loves and who loves him, and they mesh well, they complement each other very well, and he's a dad. And I got all kind of questions about, so when is your turn? So what about you? You know what I mean? Don't let anybody pressure you or push you in a particular direction. Live the life that you live, a life that makes you happy and a life you love. Find out, know yourself. I'm not a subscriber or a believer any longer that alone time means that you're lonely or you're pining away or you are you're longing or you're wasting away or anything like that. I think take that alone time, which is what I have been doing the past couple of years and what I continue to do, to really mindful, as Auntie Heather said as well. Find out about what you want, because our needs and the things that inspire us can change, right? So find out, okay, am I happy at this stage? If yes, if no, and what can I do about that? What inspires me? What puts a smile on my face? What do I really want? And I think that is what you need to go after and what you really need to lean into, no matter what age you are. I think, again, to wrap up for me, there is no age limit. There is no right age or wrong age. Just live your life. We only have the one. That's it for me.
Right. All right. And Miss Zara.
Yes, I don't have a lot to add because Heather just been dropping them pearls of wisdoms. I'm gonna make a necklace with them. So I will say this. I will just remind everybody to, as well as myself, stop the comparison. Stop comparing and continue to just live as you define your life. Live your life the way you want to. Because guess what? You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You stay in your house in a house dress, what we just call duster.
Duster.
You understand? Duster, wearing, your great grandmother's pearls and stuff. They still gonna talk about you. If you want to go outside with them stilettos, the flowing dress, the red lipstick, go do it. Go and just do it. So stop the comparison, live life more, and look forward to sex getting even better.
Yes, Zara Cougar ear all.
That's it. I want that on a t-shirt, Therese.
We're gonna put that on a t-shirt for you. And on that note, we're gonna bring this podcast to a close. Thank you so very much, Queens. Like, thank you. I am filled with gratitude for you taking time out of your Sunday evening to be here with me. I don't take people's time for granted, because I don't play about my time. So I value other people's time. It's a piece of your life that you will never get back when you give somebody your time, right? Your time is an extremely valuable asset. And so I thank you very much for giving me a little piece of your life today. And more than that, thank you for pouring into me and into my listeners and my viewers and followers. I think people are never going to forget this conversation. I see comments in the chat section saying that this is a really good program, coming from the men too. Thanks for words of wisdom, right? This was really a great conversation. So thank you, Queens, so much.
You
And
are
of course,
so
to the followers.
welcome.
Yes,
Thank you for having
thank
us,
you to all the
Therese.
followers.
Thank you
Thank you
for
so much
having
for
us.
it was a pleasure.
You are most welcome. Yes, and make sure you watch these Queens on ABS on Wednesday nights before the season is over. Yeah.
2 episodes.
Thank
right.
you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Leaving you with love and light. Be a beautiful week, everybody. Bye.
Bye.